The thinking style and approach to action in spiritual thinking. Xiefeng. November 24, 2023. We are already aware of the ladder of thinking in life: material thinking, image thinking, associative thinking, elusive thinking, visualized thinking, taiji thinking, non-form thinking, and holographic thinking. So why do we introduce rational thinking and spiritual thinking? Material thinking, image thinking, associative thinking, and elusive thinking all fall under rational thinking, which is characteristic of human thinking, while visualized thinking, taiji thinking, non-form thinking, and holographic thinking belong to celestial thinking. In other words, rational thinking and spiritual thinking serve as the boundary between human and celestial thinking. If your thinking is rational, do not doubt it, you are undoubtedly human. If, however, you contemplate and handle everything from the perspectives of visualization, taiji, non-form, and holography, without a doubt, you have transcended the ordinary and become celestial. Put simply, if our approach to problem-solving starts from the perspectives of materialism, imagery, association, and illusion, focusing on resolving the issues of survival such as food, clothing, shelter, transportation, and addressing life's inevitable challenges like aging, illness, and death, as well as securing respect, dignity, and a good reputation, and even aspiring to be admired or worshipped, then that is rational thinking, the thinking of humans. Spiritual thinking disregards these factors. Spiritual thinkers primarily consider whether their approach to handling affairs aligns with the will of the Supreme Life, the Creator, and whether it is consistent with their ultimate goal. In other words, spiritual thinkers make the will of the greatest Creator their own desire and the principles of Tao their guiding rules for action, without considering the benefits to themselves. They ponder whether their actions would please the greatest Creator. For instance, if the Holy Spirit tells you to live in the desert, a spiritual thinker will joyfully head to the desert without hesitation, thinking, "Oh, this is a revelation from the Holy Spirit. I believe in the Holy Spirit, so I should go live in the desert." It's that simple, direct, and straightforward. However, a rational thinker would never think or act in this manner. A rational thinker would ask, "There's no water in the desert, wouldn't people die of thirst? What if there's a sandstorm that buries the house? Live in the desert? Are you insane?" Similarly, if the Holy Spirit tells you to go to Canada, a rational thinker will first check how to get a visa. After finding out that applicants need a bank deposit and monthly bank transactions, and realizing they have neither, they would decide, "Forget it, I don't meet the requirements." But a spiritual thinker wouldn't bother checking the requirements or listening to others' advice, they would immediately start the application process. At this point, you might wonder what the Holy Spirit is and how to know if it's a revelation from the Holy Spirit. Let me explain. The Holy Spirit is not a person, it's the voice within us or the greatest driving force we feel in our hearts. This driving force must bring us joy and excitement, not pressure or fear. You might think that spiritual thinkers have simplistic minds. Let me tell you, the minds of spiritual thinkers are infinitely more complex than those of rational thinkers. Spiritual thinkers belong to a higher dimensional thinking, and rational thinkers cannot comprehend the complexity of spiritual thinkers' minds. This can be demonstrated in three ways. Firstly, spiritual thinkers grasp the macroscopic, while rational thinkers grasp the microscopic. For instance, when seeking employment, spiritual thinkers prioritize whether the job brings them joy and happiness, whereas rational thinkers focus on aspects such as salary, working conditions, and prospects. Why is that? Because spiritual thinkers consider the direction of their lives and whether they can ultimately reach heaven. They are unwilling to do anything that conflicts with their destination. On the other hand, rational thinkers consider whether the job can meet their current life needs and don't consider whether their current actions will affect their ultimate goal. From this perspective, spiritual thinkers consider how to live, while rational thinkers consider how to survive. Secondly, spiritual thinkers consider life, while rational thinkers consider human life. To consider life, one must understand the principles and mysteries of life and its relationship with time and space. To consider human life, One only needs to learn the accumulated knowledge and experience of humanity and understand the operating rules of human society. Thirdly, spiritual thinkers maximize simplicity in handling complexity, while rational thinkers always complicate simplicity. For example, when building a community, those who participated in the construction of our third and fourth branches can recall that the layout and environment of the two communities were beautiful, right? If it were rational thinkers, they would gather everyone to discuss how to lay out and beautify the environment, insisting on drawing plans first, considering the selection of materials and the arrangement of personnel, and so on. However, in the construction of the two branches, there were no such discussions. I just imagined the layout and environment based on the terrain and then told everyone what to do. When everyone worked together, they didn't even know what the final community would look like. Yet, due to excellent cooperation, we completed two beautiful communities in just 2 years. It's worth emphasizing that the mind of someone who simplifies complex issues is significantly more insightful and considers a broader range of factors compared to someone who complicates straightforward matters. It's not even on the same level. Don't believe it? Why not attempt to simplify your own life and observe the outcomes? If you think that spiritual thinkers handle things superficially while rational thinkers are meticulous, that's a misunderstanding. For example, when building a house in a certain location, a spiritual thinker might say, just build a house on high ground using wood and glass, it'll be good if it can last for 2 or 3 years. This would be hard for a rational thinker to accept. At the very least, they would consider the stability of the house and ensure it stands for at least 30 years, right? On the surface, the rational thinker's consideration seems entirely correct. But the crucial point is, the spiritual thinker considers that there will be a major earthquake in the location where the house is built 2 years later. Even the sturdiest house would collapse. Therefore, they suggest just doing it casually. There's no need to go to great lengths and waste financial, material, and human resources. This is something a rational thinker would never think of. So, what about life? Isn't it like building a house in an earthquake zone? Is it necessary to rack our brains and be so serious?